Trying out new games is hard. Each tabletop RPG takes such a commitment of time and effort to learn and actually play. I only got back to D&D during the lockdown, and now I'm a part of 3 ongoing campaigns where we just play D&D 5th edition, and on top of that, there are so many other systems I want to try. So I wanted to make this video for myself to prioritize the games I really want to try, and for all of us to talk about the games that you want to try in the next few weeks or months. So welcome to Polyhedron, I'm Ron. So the first on my list right now is Blades in the Dark. I've heard so much about this game, and after spending a lot of time on Ironsworn, I really wanted to try more games that put a huge emphasis on character choice and narrative. In a way, all tabletop RPGs do, but it seems to me that games like Blades in the Dark and Ironsworn intentionally strip away some complexities so you can just focus on the story, while of course offering a unique system that, does cool things. What I find interesting about Blades is the setting and the structure of the game. The game puts you in the city of Duskval, a place that the game describes as a mashup of Venice, London, and Prague during the Second Industrial Revolution of the 1870s. The city and the world around it is shrouded in perpetual darkness as a result of a cataclysm that shattered the sun thousands of years ago, or 1,000 years ago. That same event also broke the gates of death and let out all the ghosts which haunt the world. So all the cities have to be surrounded by these walls of lightning that keep out all of the twisted spirits. And what powers these barriers is the electroplasmic blood of massive demonic creatures. So, to quote the actual manual of the game, you're in a haunted Victorian-era city trapped inside a wall of lightning powered by demon blood. Of course, a cool setting is not enough to make a game. The system itself looks pretty great as well. We're not going to go super deep into it right now, but this game lends itself to needing very little, if any, prep from the game master, since it's all about what the players choose to do, so you don't have to prepare a story in advance. The player characters are a crew of scoundrels, criminals living in the city of Duskval. What type of criminals is up to them. There are different mechanics for different types of characters and for the crew itself. The crew of these scoundrels even gets his own character sheet. Each game session is designed to work like an episode of a TV show, where the driving force of the game is to jump straight into the action. That action being the score, whether that is a heist, an assassination, or whatever. Because you don't do a lot of planning beforehand, during the score itself you can get flashbacks to when your team supposedly planned for a certain outcome. It should make for a fast-paced, high-stakes game that you can just sit down and play. So I'm incredibly excited to try it, and I plan to try it as soon as one of my campaigns wrap up, but who knows when that's going to be. Second on the list of things that will consume the final seconds of my free time, Lancer. Lancer is a sci-fi RPG in which humanity is expanded into the galaxy and now counts in the trillions. Our solar system is still regarded as the cradle of humanity, and it's also the seat of Union, a form of government that oversees the vastness of humanity. And within the core of Union's rule, life exists in a kind of post-capital utopia. But as you get further away into the galaxy, life more resembles the, natural evolution of the real world, where there's a mix of peace, wars, crime, kindness, and hardship. Underlying our own plane of existence is blink space, a strange parallel plane pierced by blink gates, which allow us to travel through the galaxy with speed and relative safety. So already I'm loving the setting, and I don't know if it would be unfair to say that it sounds like a bit like a less dark Warhammer 40k. Maybe it's unfair because you could probably equate any two sci-fi or fantasy settings this way, and pretty much any other sci-fi setting is going to be a less dark Warhammer 40k. Anyway, your players play Lancers, who are exceptional mech pilots, best of the best. So this game is a mix of narrative play, where just like any other RPGs, you play your character and you tell a story, and the other part is mech combat. You get to create your own mech, and then customize it with weapons and other components. I didn't have a ton of time to dig into the rules for this one, but what makes me want to do so beyond the setting is actually the fact that the rules seem quite involved. As the pilot, the rules mostly come down to some simple dice rolls. It's when you get into the mech and combat starts that things seem to get pretty complicated. And complicated is probably the wrong word. It doesn't seem difficult to play, but it looks like there's a big focus on tactical combat and a ton of options to choose from as you customize and build your mech. So the combination of these two things will probably make it feel like a lot. Just like how playing a spellcaster for the first time in D&D 5th edition feels like a lot, and it is a lot. But I actually see a lot of things I love about D&D here in this system. Outside of combat, it's mostly about the story with a few dice rolls here and there, and combat is more closely governed by rules, which forces you to think about tactics. And I know that I just said like a minute ago that I like games like Ironsworn and Blades in the Dark for the exact opposite reason, but yeah, it's like how I like both Total War and Mortal Kombat. Lancer does seem like a much heavier game than Blades in the Dark. I think that with Blades, I'll probably feel comfortable to just launch into a campaign with whoever is available, even if I'm not 100% on the rules. And with Lancer, I'll probably have to do some playtesting at some point and make sure that I only play with people who are into this like almost wargaming level of tactical combat. So I'm super excited to try this one. I'll just do it more carefully. Also, can we just talk about how amazing the art for this book is? It is unbelievable. Number 3 on the list is Cult Divinity Lost. This is a reboot of a game from 1991 and features a new rule set and an updated setting. Cult is a contemporary horror game in which the world we see around us is basically an illusion, a veil beyond which lies a true and horrifying reality. Some of us may catch glimpses of the real world in the rants of a madman on the subway or in the strange neighbor who for a split second doesn't seem altogether human. In this game, you try to escape your nightmare and wake up to the reality by trying to learn the truth about this prison of illusion and our captors. This is so incredibly appealing to me for a number of reasons. First, just look at the art. This is the most black metal game I've ever seen, and I am here for it. Also, I've been wanting to try both a game that takes place in modern times, and also I've been looking for a good horror role-playing game, and this seems to check both boxes. And from what I understand, the rule set is powered by the Apocalypse, which doesn't mean it's exactly the same as other games that are also PBTA, but it does mean that the rules will feel a bit familiar, which is nice. I have not read the core rule book for this one. It is expensive, so I will only buy it when I think I actually have the time to play it and people to play it with. But when a game hooks you with just a few paragraphs about the setting and premise and incredible art, of course, what could possibly go wrong, as I will inevitably eventually pour endless hours into this. And also on their website, there are a bunch of free quick play scenarios, and I did read through a couple of those, and these stories are so well thought out and so much care has clearly gone into crafting these scenarios that I'm like, if this is what they're giving away for free, I want to see what they're charging an egregious $80 for in the hardcover. Number 4 is Shadow of the Demon Lord. I'm a big fan of dark, gritty fantasy stories, what some people call grimdark. Whatever you want to call it, I'm talking about the stories where the world is bleak and you see the dark and painful side of heroism. That's why you might see a bunch of Joe Abercrombie books up there and a bunch of Warhammer 40k books down there. I don't know if you can see it. And I have read a lot about Warhammer fantasy roleplay, and it seems great, but I just can't bring myself to try it for the same reason that I've never played Pathfinder. I just already have the big fat fantasy rules heavy game in my life, and that is D&D 5th edition. It's not that I'm like a die-hard D&D is the best and everything else sucks. No, that's a stupid way of looking at the world. I just happened to try D&D first, and I've already invested quite a bit of time and money into D&D, and I got my friends to learn D&D, so I'm just not going to start all over again. Well, I mean, not right now, at least. What's my point? Well, I don't know, but I'm getting to it. Shadow of the Demon Lord is a game that I read about on r/RPG, and as if they were talking directly to me, multiple people were talking about how Shadow totally scratches the grimdark itch, has a straightforward and easy to learn rule set while still having some similarity to D&D, as it seems to draw from both Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and D&D 4th edition. So a lot of people were actually talking about how it kind of fixes some of the things wrong with D&D. And then I was like, interesting. And that's it, really. I think it's interesting. I want to play it now. I've read a bunch of stuff about it, and it also seems like it lends itself to much shorter, more brutal campaigns, which I would definitely be into. I mean, I love the big campaigns, but D&D can be pretty slow. And I've been DMing Descent into Avernus for a while now, the D&D module. We've been going at it for a good few months, and I love it, but I do sometimes feel that D&D is not brutal enough of a system to really make the players feel how horrible everything is in hell. I feel that a system like Shadow could have actually fitted a campaign like this one maybe better than D&D. And finally, number 5, also from the folks who make Blades in the Dark, Aegon. Aegon is advertised as a fast-paced tabletop RPG of heroic action in the world of ancient myths. This is a Greek mythology-inspired game where you create and play the same heroes who would later on go on to be known as legends. There are a few things that really grabbed my eye about this one. First, the art is really cool. Maybe you're noticing a trend here. It all reminds me of the Disney Hercules movie, and for whatever reason, that's a good thing. And I've never played a Greek mythology game before. And while generally cooperative games are my favorite, it would be cool to play a game that encourages some competition between players, which this game apparently does. You might want to steal the glory from one of your friends by upstaging them in battle or winning other types of contests. I'm really interested to see how that plays out in the rules. And you might be noticing another theme here, but this game also supports zero prep games, which when it works well is awesome, because then it means that the return on investment on reading the rules is just massive. Unlike D&D, where I learned the rules and spent hours upon hours prepping the adventure, which, don't get me wrong, I love doing and would absolutely not do if I didn't enjoy it, but it does take quite a bit of time and work. And with a game like Aegon or Blades, I could just randomly start playing if my friends say, hey, we're free tonight, want to play? So it's good to always have one of these games in your back pocket. And that is it. In the comments, of course, let's talk about the tabletop RPGs that you've been wanting to try out but didn't get a chance to. And let's see if we can help each other learn about more things we'd love to play, but realistically will never ever have the time to get to. All right, go play a game.